Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good morning. Tuesday, May 23rd, day 2 of the 5-day fasting. Some kind of ancient transportation. I'm going to not mute myself this time, but if you could mute yourself, that would be fantastic. I'm also going to go through and ask everybody who's not muted to be muted because that helps me so much. Now, I wanted to talk today about the questions that we're receiving on the Better Practice app. We're going to go through those. And I also wanted to check in how you guys are doing. So post in the comments below or type in there in the chat box and let me know, how has day 2 gone for you? Is there any troubleshooting that you need to do? How are you feeling in general? I had the roosters last night going crazy, or early morning going crazy. So today, I know with not having enough sleep, it's going to be more challenging managing hunger and satiety cues. So a couple of things that I'm personally doing is I'm reducing my caffeine intake, and I would love to have more caffeine today because I didn't sleep as well, but I know that really impacts my overall feeling of anxiousness. So instead of having caffeine or as much caffeine, I'm switching more to a Ganoderma or a mushroom coffee, green tea. Green tea does still have some caffeine in it, but it has L-theanine, which is calming to the nervous system. I am upping my water. I'm having relaxing focus, and also I'm going to space out my feeding window a little bit more. So if you are having troubles with sleep, or maybe you had a bad night's sleep, one of the things that you might want to consider doing is spacing out that nutrition a little bit longer instead of having 1 or 2 meals. I know it's not a lot of a nutrition to space out, but that could be helpful for some. And of course, we're going to be going to bed really early tonight, and the roosters need to find a new place. When I got chickens, my intention was to only have hens. Like, I just wanted the chickens for eggs. And of course I was told, yep, they're all girls. They're all girls. They're all girls. And I think we ended up with 6 or 7 roosters who are all screaming right beside my bedroom. So they're going to find a new place to live so that I can get my sleep and start to feel better. Now, in terms of the questions, post them in the comments here. I'm happy to answer them live as we go. And also, I'm going to go through some of the questions that we're getting in the Better Practice app. Now, one of the topics we're also going to cover today that was recommended, thank you so much for recommending that, is autophagy. What that is, when does it start, and why is it so important to our overall health? And thank you for everybody who is posting in the group discussion that we have in the Better Practice app. There's lots of engagement in there, and that really does help everybody learn and troubleshoot together. The recommendations for the chopsticks with the meal so that you're eating it a little bit slower, I laughed. I thought that was a great strategy. And today we're going to go through again the autophagy, and we're going to go right into some of the questions. So I'm going to pull up the questions that we currently have in the group chat. We'll run through those really quick. And then anything else that you want to ask live, just let me know. Oh, I had this all pulled up a second ago. And of course, let's see. The Better Practice app, this is the first time that I am running a group program through this app. So it's a learning experience for me, it's a learning experience for you guys, and I appreciate the patience as we troubleshoot that. Now, one of the questions that I know that came up was, why is the plan so low in protein? And a side question to that is, can I have bone broth? Now, bone broth is rich in amino acids. And amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. So I do not want you to have bone broth. If you can avoid that, that would be great, because the idea is we really want to ensure that we are reducing the amino acids or reducing the protein. Now, that can be counterintuitive because I really promote a high protein diet. I think protein is really great for your lean muscle mass. It's great for your metabolism. It's really important for so many different features of the body. But this specific plan is really low in protein because we want to reduce growth factors. Growth factors are things like IGF-1. And when those are reduced, that's where we start to get into the autophagy, which is the cleaning up of old cells or breakdown of cells that are not behaving as they should. Now, in terms of the bone broth, again, higher in leucine, that's an amino acid that's going to reduce autophagy. There was actually a study that they did in humans. It was only 8 males, so it wasn't a huge study, but what they looked at is They had them fast for 36 hours. And then they exposed them to either a protein drink or more of a carbohydrate-based drink. And what they found was the protein drink that was rich in the leucine actually broke the process of autophagy. So it stopped autophagy, whereas the carbohydrates, the autophagy continued. Now, this explains why you might be looking at the plan and saying, okay, like that's a little bit higher in carbohydrates with the fruit. Am I really going to get in ketosis? And one of the benefits that we see with these prolonged fasts, or one of the benefits that we really want to enhance, is the process of autophagy, because there's so much research in it in terms of cancer, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, infections, neurodegenerative diseases, cardiovascular disease. So if we can stimulate autophagy in a very specific way while still getting some nutrients, that's going to be really important for longevity. Now, the other question that we had here was, can you measure ketones in your urine? So ketones are produced when your body starts to break down fat for fuel. Ketones you can measure in the urine. You can do that if you are interested, although it's not necessary. And sometimes when we have too much information, it becomes confusing and overwhelming. So if you are used to monitoring ketones and you want to play around with that, absolutely you can. If it's something that you are not familiar with, I wouldn't start incorporating that. Start with the meal plan 1 or meal plan 2 or meal plan 3. And then as you get into subsequent sessions of the fasting, or if you're choosing to do the 5-day fast 3 months in a row, then maybe you can get more specific on month 2 or 3 when you've learned more about how to really make the plan specific to you based off of the macronutrients. Next question here. Question about exercise. I usually walk 40 to 60 minutes a day, but it's an intense rate. Should I still do this while fasting? You can still do movement. What I don't want you to do is really intense exercise where you're using a lot of your muscle mass, or you're getting a lot of lactic acid buildup, because you're not having the appropriate nutrients to be able to sustain that workout or to be able to repair those muscles. So walking is great, but I would see how your body feels. If you're tired, if you're feeling like, this is not something that, I normally feel when I go on my walk, then drop it down, slower pace, less duration, that's fine. There was also a question about the links not working for the supplements. You don't need any supplements for the 5-day fast. Just keep it simple. Unless you're doing the avocado only nutrition plan, you want to have the greens powder with it, then yes, you're going to have to order that. I've corrected the Canadian full script links, so you guys can go ahead and access that if you're interested. But again, you don't need supplements here. Magnesium, this is a great mineral. It's the most common mineral deficiency that we often see. So if you are supplementing with magnesium, you can continue to do that, especially before bedtime. Now, magnesium bisglycinate, this is a really well-absorbed magnesium. It's well-rounded. It's great for hormones, blood sugar, blood pressure, muscle tension, calming the nervous system, muscle recovery. This is the basic magnesium that I recommend most often. Now, for individuals who have constipation, you may want to consider magnesium citrate. It's not as well absorbed, but you're still going to absorb 25% of it. And because it's not as well absorbed, it can help with bowel movements. The third type of magnesium would be magnesium threonate. Magnesium threonate can cross into the blood-brain barrier, and some individuals find this one in particular better for sleep, better for cognition, mental health, remembering, focus, migraines. So that could be something that you can consider. Now, magnesium threonate, an example would be the NeuroMag from Designs for Health. This is a higher price point magnesium. So if you're not seeing a big difference between the magnesium threonate and the magnesium bisglycinate, then I would just drop back down to the magnesium bisglycinate. Other questions are regarding, can you keep yourself in ketosis after the 5-day fasted mimicking diet? So typically ketosis happens around 18 hours. Some individuals, it takes longer to get into ketosis. That's again when you're burning fat for fuel. You can maintain ketosis long-term, but I would be cautious that you are not breaking down your lean muscle mass, or you're not reducing your protein in a long-term way just to get into ketosis long-term. Now, that could be different for each and every individual, depending on your health history and your health concern. Maybe prolonged ketosis is more beneficial or the benefits outweigh the risk of tapping into a little bit of your lean muscle mass. In general, my concern with long-term ketosis is Typically, individuals need to lower their protein to get into ketosis. And if you do that too much, you're going to break down your lean muscle mass. So I'd be cautious with that. Okay, so I hope that helps answer some of those questions to see how individuals are doing. This individual says, feeling good. Good tip on lowering caffeine today. So far, so good. I feel like I have more energy. I find that when individuals slip from or switch from stage 2 to stage 3, that's the hardest transition. So when your body is depleting all of your stored glucose, which is your glycogen, when that's all going down and your body's switching over to fat for fuel, once you've switched, you typically feel better. You typically feel like you have more energy, more mental clarity. If you're at that stage where you feel like, oh, I haven't made that switch yet, you're kind of feeling tired, hungry, lethargic, again, grab that water bottle and shake it for a minute. On your left hand, shake it for a minute with the right hand. That can help stimulate the muscles, the biceps and the triceps, raise your blood sugar a little bit. You're depleting your muscle and liver glycogen a little bit quicker. If you feel up to doing a little bit of sprint training, a little bit of resistance training, a little bit of HIIT training, if you're used to doing that, you could do that to speed up the process as you go through phase 2 to phase 3. Drinking rise in the morning instead of coffee too. Oh, I'm interested. What is that? Water was good yesterday and on track for today. That's my favorite part about doing the fasting is I'm really, really diligent with my water. And that's something that I want to keep up after. Oh, kids sick with a cough. Sleep has been disrupted. Yes, that's hard. My daughter as well. I can hear a little bit of congestion and it's hate when they're sick. No one gets a good sleep. Shaking the water bottle today. Okay, amazing. That can really be helpful, or go for a walk, right? Something that can get, when you exercise, you do release a little bit of that stored glycogen. It goes into your bloodstream. So it'll raise your blood sugar a little bit. Exercise will temporarily raise your blood sugar. So if you're feeling that low, that's where, doing a little bit of movement can be helpful. Of course, if you're dizzy, don't do burpees. That's why I like the water bottle trick. If you're feeling unwell, give that one last effort. Now, if you are feeling like you want to break your fast, amazing. You've made it this far. Don't push your body too much. What I would recommend is you transition out of the fast into healthy whole foods, ease in the protein, and then try it again next month. If you make it to day 2, day 3, day 4, whatever you make it to, don't try to repeat, don't go off the fast and then say, okay, I didn't do it perfect. I need to repeat it the next week. No. Wait until the next month. So I wanted to encourage everybody to listen to your body. If you feel like you need to stop the fast at any point in time, let's do that. Reach out to me on the Better Practice app. I'm happy to troubleshoot as well. Now, in terms of autophagy, let's dive more into that. Auto means self, phagy means feeding on. So feeding on your own cells. And this I like to think of as a cellular housekeeping. It allows your body to remove damaged parts of the cells and recycle other parts of the cells. Anything that's not behaving properly, such as misfolded proteins, damaged organelles, pathogens that shouldn't be in the body, are typically broken down through the process of autophagy. We have many studies on animals for autophagy, but I wanted to be transparent and say there's not a ton of studies in humans on autophagy. So we're still learning about this, but there definitely is more studies to come. Now, the current research that we have shows that autophagy can be promoted with longer water fasts or the 5-day fasting mimicking diet because it's lower in protein. And these strategies have become popular because it's been shown to improve longevity and health span. So health span is really important to me because it's the number of years that you live with quality health. There's a big difference between, living to 80, 90 with really great quality health and then living to 80 to 90 in really poor quality health. So longevity and health span is something that I'm really passionate about increasing. The process of autophagy has had research on it in cancer, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, infections, neurodegenerative disease, and cardiovascular disease. And I think we're seeing a lot of these benefits because of how powerful this strategy is at reducing your blood sugar and reducing your insulin levels. And these two things, if you have insulin resistance, higher blood sugar, we know that contributes to detriment to a variety of different organ systems and does create inflammation and overall risk of chronic disease. The current evidence suggests that anywhere between 18 hours to 4 days triggers autophagy. It depends on how much stored glycogen you have in your livers and in your liver, just one, and your muscles. So if you really loaded up on a ton of sugar prior to the fast, and you're typically sedentary, it can take longer for your body to get into autophagy. So that's where some of the gentle movements, shaking the water bottle, could come into play. The other question I get, does coffee stop autophagy? No, you can have black coffee, your green tea, all of that is fine. Rat studies suggest no. If you have a continuous blood sugar monitor and you see that caffeine raises your blood sugar quite significantly, then maybe that's something for you specifically that we want to reduce. But typically, as long as you're not putting anything in your coffee, we see overall that does not stop the process. So what does stop the process? Of course, we talked about that study where they gave a glucose drink versus the protein drink. It's the leucine, that it's a very specific type of amino acid that stops autophagy. Leucine's a really great amino acid for building lean muscle mass. Amino acids in general are important for your metabolism, for your neurotransmitters. So things like dopamine, your motivation, serotonin, your happy hormone. Amino acids are really important. If you've been in my metabolic reset program, I'm like, make sure you have enough protein, make sure to take your amino acids. I've put amino acids in the detox packs. They are really important in terms of your overall health, and muscle mass is also associated with longevity. Now, the 5-day fasting mimicking program is just 5 days of low protein with the intention of getting to that state of autophagy. And the research on the 5 days fasting mimicking diet showed that there was not a loss in muscle mass from the 5 days. So long as you are going back to a nutrition plan for the rest of the month, that is a good amount of protein to sustain your muscle mass. Typically, I'm recommending about 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight of protein. So if your ideal body weight is 130 pounds, aim for 130 grams of protein. If you can't get to that amount of protein, just do your best and make an effort each day to try to increase it a little bit. Sometimes you need an amino acid powder, sometimes a collagen powder is helpful, sometimes a protein shake can be beneficial for some individuals. Healthy whole foods, less processed, less things that come from a package or bag is always going to be what I would recommend. But the reality is we're busy and it's not always conducive to get in that much protein. Okay, so what else can promote autophagy? Green tea, onions, nuts, apples, berries, milk thistle, polyphenols from plants. So that's why you see a lot of green on this nutrition plan, as well as supplements like resveratrol. You can get some of the benefits of autophagy from. Again, you don't need any supplements throughout this entire program, but you can see, what I'm saying, like I'm drinking green tea. There's nuts on some of the plants, there's apples, polyphenols from plants. That's why those ones are specifically included. Okay, so as a summary, before I show you 3 of the studies that I pulled up to wrap up today, a summary is autophagy is a form of cellular housekeeping. You are getting rid of the misfolded proteins, the damaged organelles, the pathogens. These are degraded and removed from cells and recycled. It plays a critical role in prevention of chronic disease, improvements in health span and longevity. And the ways that you can promote autophagy is from caloric restriction, fasting, making sure it's low protein or protein sparing. All of those things have the possibility of inducing autophagy. And there are many, many compounds from a nutrition perspective that can be helpful. So one of the things you could do is try out green tea, right? Green tea can also be really great at suppressing appetite a little bit. So if you are feeling hungry over the next couple days, and the goal is not to be not hungry. You are going to be hungry at some point in time throughout the 5-day fast because you're not consuming a lot of foods. It's just how can we manage that? And is it something that you can push through in a safe way to get the added benefits where it's not creating any negative symptoms, like significant symptoms of dizziness? If you're in doubt, reach out to me. It shouldn't be debilitating for you to do this plan. That's not the goal at all. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. I wanted to go through 3 of the studies that I pulled up that I really like. So can somebody post in the chat? Can you see what I'm looking at here? The science transitional medicine. Is that something that everybody can see? Vivid dreams, going to the washroom a lot from all the water. Yes. Okay, amazing. And yes, you can see it. Okay, thank you. All right, so these are the studies that we're going to go through. So this study here looked at the fasting mimicking diet, which is exactly what you're doing, and markers and risk factors for aging, diabetes, cancer, and cardiovascular disease. So one of the things that we know, 5 days each month for 3 months. Again, if you don't do these 5 days perfectly, oh well, just end the fast, do what you need to do to make your body feel good. And then we will try again next month, or you can consider trying again next month. It's just 5 days. I don't want individuals to stop on day 2 and then, 2 days later, at the start of June, try this again. No, 5 days each month for 3 months for 3 consecutive cycles has been shown to reduce body fat. Again, the body fat reduction is not the ultimate goal, but those results will be doubled if you are sleeping. So one of the things I really want you to focus on is trying to get that sleep in as much as possible. We also see improvements in lowering blood pressure, lowering a hormone IGF-1. That's that growth hormone that we don't want for individuals who have cancer cells. We're going to dive into that a little bit more in the next study. And we do see some positive benefits in longevity and health span. Now, this next study, let me know, can you post in the comment again if you could see when I switch the slide? That would be great. This study was in postmenopausal women, and we were looking at the risk factors for breast cancer. So sometimes we get caught up in, oh my gosh, hormone replacement therapy, it increases the risk of breast cancer. And we know that's actually not the case, but that seems to be what we're really focused on. What we know actually increases the risk for breast cancer even more is higher amounts of glucose and higher amounts of insulin and higher amounts of IGF-1, all of which the fasting mimicking diet can reduce. And when the IGF-1 goes down enough, that's where we start to see autophagy and a cleaning up of these cells that aren't behaving as well. Someone's, yes, they can see it. Okay, thank you. All right, and this study here looked at fasting mimicking diet and hormone therapy induced breast cancer reduction. What we are actually seeing, this was in mice, so we're not, again, this is just a mice study, but we were seeing that cycles of the fasting mimicking diet in mice, again, reducing the insulin, reducing the leptin. So individuals with leptin resistance have issues with their hunger and satiety cues. It's really interesting that a period of a 5-day fast actually improves those hunger and satiety cues. You're more sensitive to that feeling of fullness and reduced IGF-1. And these actually remain low for extended periods of time after. So this study was suggesting that, hey, if we can incorporate 5 days a month, we may actually have some positive improvements in our ability for our body to naturally fight off the development of cancers. For individuals who are going through chemotherapy, radiation, the interesting thing that we see with fasting is, and again, you want to speak to your primary care and you want to work one-on-one with a practitioner. I'm going to have Dr. Lori come on and speak to this as well, because her clinical focus is in cancer. We want to use fasting in a strategic way. So one of the things that we don't want is we don't want to lose a ton of muscle mass for individuals who are going through chemotherapy, because we know that loss of muscle mass is associated with negative outcomes. But if we can do something in a short-term way that improves the body's response to chemotherapy, using it together with traditional therapies, we actually see some benefits there. And we also see the patient's response to chemotherapy improve. So the side effects associated with chemotherapy tend to be not as great for individuals who are implementing some of these fasting routines, which I think is fantastic. So autophagy, cleaning up of old cells, this is not only important for longevity, but also really important. And there is some interesting research looking at, is this an effective strategy that we can use to prevent cancer and even use it in combination with traditional therapies to improve the response? I'm going to leave it at that for now when it comes to the cancer, because Dr. Lori, again, this is her clinical focus, and she's going to help dive into more of this literature and help explain it for us. So I hope that was helpful for everybody. Again, really big thank you for posting your questions in the Better Group chat, the engagement, the troubleshooting together. That really makes this more fun to do, feeling like you're doing it with other individuals. Any concerns, please reach out to me and we'll take it from there. We'll see you tomorrow. What I'm going to do, because there's been some issues, last point here, getting registered for these live calls. I'm going to make a summary and I'm going to say, here's the date, here's the time, here's the link to join the group. And I'll pin that at the top of our group chat as well. So for anybody who wants to join, you can have the links there available to join. I have proactively registered everybody already for all of the chats or all of the live calls. So you're already registered. You don't have to worry about registering. But I think having that summary post will allow everybody to see when the talks are going to be happening. And again, the recordings are in just after the bonus section. All of the recordings are there. And I'll be uploading the recording of today's as well for anybody who's interested to rewatch. So have a great day, everybody. I wish you all of the best, and we'll continue to see you over the next couple of days. Talk soon.